Welcome back to the Pre-Vetted podcast, where we spotlight extraordinary people and remarkable talent reshaping our world. Today, we are joined by Karthik Krishnamurthy, CEO and founder of Ascendion, a company focused on disrupting and transforming how we build software by being AI native from day one. He brings deep experience helping large enterprises connect technology to real outcomes. Earlier in his career, he spent nearly 2 decades at Cognizant. He had a senior leadership roles across digital analytics and AI. Last but not least, he is the author of a book called AI Arbitrage is the Next Frontier. Karthik, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here, Federico. Quite exciting.
I am honored to have you here today.
It's my privilege.
So tell us, what problem did you want to solve when you decided to start Ascendion?
Yeah, I think the problem that I really wanted to solve was to land the plane of AI, right? I've been in AI for about 25 years, seen various sort of curves, ups and downs, and so on and so forth. And every time that we would get super excited about the journey that we were taking, the question of, okay, all this is great, but where is the return on investment? Where is the ROI would always come up. And, I think it was Satya that said it beautifully. He said that, if let's say a couple of years from now, if all of our conversations around AI still happens to be done by the people that are producing it, then I think we sort of lost it, right? I lost the whole point of it. And so I started Ascendion with the primary goal of helping organizations truly realize the potential and the outcome that AI promises. And I came to the conclusion that it's not possible to do that with just building another fantastic piece of technology or two. Right? The speed at which technology is moving right now, it's just getting better by the day, right? Better by the minute, actually. The challenge that needs to be solved is a business model, a process model, a culture model that one needs to put their head around and help clients and buyers and organizations figure out. And that was the primary reason I started Ascendion. Somebody asked me the other day, if 5 years from now if somebody went to one of your clients and said, give me the words that would describe Ascendion, to me, there were only two words that came up. It was outcome assurance, right? We just want to be known by our clients as those that they would call when they were at a place where they really had to drive a return on investment on artificial intelligence, which means doing all of these various things and helping them do all of these various things.
Right. I think that with all the hype that is around AI, it's refreshing to see how you have a down-to-earth approach based on outcomes and not smoke.
Yeah, listen, the reason I've been so obsessed with that part of the AI conversation, it sort of dates back to 2015, 2016, when in an earlier life, we were working with a healthcare company to help them figure out a solution for the opioid crisis. If you remember, 14, 15, 16, the opioid crisis was raging during that time. And this was a healthcare company which was really trying to solve it at both ends, right? Both from a health health delivery perspective as well as from a cost of health delivery perspective. And we created a machine learning algorithm through which we were able to proactively identify patients from falling into drug-seeking behaviors, based on refills and so on and so forth. It was a small project. It wasn't much. It didn't mean much to me from a revenue perspective, but it meant so much to me from an impact standpoint because it saved $60 million for the client, but more importantly, it saved the lives of 85,000 people.
Wow.
For 85,000 people, this healthcare provider was able to create proactive interventions and stop them from becoming drug addicts, right? That thought has always stuck in my head, which is when artificial intelligence is leveraged in a way where you have a very clear idea of what is the outcome that you want to be able to produce, and point it in that direction and sort of enable the universe around it to make it possible, which is the business model, the process model, the culture model, the people model, and so on and so forth, we can truly impact lives. We can truly make the world a better place. And so that thought's always been in my head. And so it sort of goes back to that, right? So helping organizations really sort of land this plane in a way where you are able to realize the business and the human impact that I think it can actually deliver.
Right. Right. Yeah. What's the point of building a bridge if nobody's going to use it? Right. If it's not going to allow people to go to school or go with their lives. Right.
And what's the point of building a bridge to nowhere?
Right. Right. So I think that as an engineer, our first purpose is to build cool stuff, right? But then a deeper, more meaningful purpose is to change people's life, right? That they use what we built to improve their lives.
Agreed.
So why did you build Ascendion AI native from day one? And what does AI native mean to you?
AI native fundamentally means you're not getting up every day trying to figure out why you need to use AI or what in AI you need to use. The only thing you're thinking about is the how, right? That to me is AI native. A company that's AI native is essentially wired with artificial intelligence mindset and thought from day one, which means that people inside the organization are leaning forward on using it. They look forward to using it. They are finding ways to use it, as opposed to wondering what to use it for or why should I even use it. That is the difference between an AI native company and an AI first company. An AI first company, there's still a lot of work to be done on the why and the what, and you would put AI as the first option, but then also be perfectly okay with the second and the third and the fourth options. But an AI native company is built with artificial intelligence at its core. What does that mean? You hire people that look forward to using artificial intelligence. You hire people that look forward to learning this. You hire people that come in with the core skill sets of curiosity, of communication, of math, of various different skills that are required for you to be able to really leverage artificial intelligence for generating outcomes. And we've put it in the way that we build the company. Like, for example, the day one when I joined the company, I wrote an AI ML algorithm that would instantly categorize my business into the various different types of things I was doing, whether it was product engineering, whether it was platform engineering. It wasn't just somebody sitting somewhere that decided what it would be. It was an ML algorithm that did that, right? And then you take it one step further where, if we're running marketing campaigns today, my marketing campaigns are all run using agents. If you look at my own CIO, I'm not even talking about the work we do for clients, just the way that the company is being set up, the work that he does, almost all of the code that we write is written through our agents. And so there is a lot of wiring that's happened inside the organization across the various parts of the organization, so that ultimately we can confidently say to our clients that we eat our own dog food, and these are the ways in which we would actually be delivering AI native solutions for you, where everything that we deliver ultimately is either driven by AI or driven for AI, right? For example, if you're building an AI ML application or you're leveraging an agentic process for you to be able to transform software engineering, that's all where we're using AI to drive something. Now, there are also many scenarios where clients ask us to come in and modernize platforms, modernize products, because it fits into a broader artificial intelligence journey that the client wants to get on, right? They want to build their platforms and their products to be ready for AI. We're chosen for that as well because of our AI native approach. So when you design a platform, you design a product, you're always thinking, how can I leverage that in a way where I make it possible for some AI ML algorithm to be able to use what is coming out of it. And so all of those pieces sort of go into what I think is AI native. But ultimately, it's that. It is an organization that gets up every day only thinking about the how, not necessarily the why, and not so much of the what, because the why and the what, to a large extent, we've already sort of taken care of. We've taken care of the why by bringing in people that are already on board with the why. And then we've done enough work inside the organization to define the what, where are the areas you could apply artificial intelligence and so on and so forth. Now it's just about doing more and more of the how. That's the AI native.
Right. And you're using AI as a means, not as an end.
AI is never the end. I think
Right. But that has
you're right.
been the, people ask, how can I implement AI? And that's probably the wrong question.
That is the wrong question. How can I actually deliver on 400 bips of EBITDA? How can I deliver on 4 quarters of acceleration in revenue? Ask a tough question. Do not ask a question for which the answer is incremental. Ask a question for which the answer is substantial. To me, we have to lead with that. And the power of artificial intelligence today is that in many cases, the only way that you can solve that problem is by applying an AI lens to it, right?
And also, as far as I understand, in enterprise, you also have the challenge that putting a generic LLM into the system and let it run wild doesn't work. You
That is very
cannot
true.
you cannot ask higher level questions without providing the whole foundational infrastructure and
Well, there are two pieces to
tuning,
it,
right?
right? There are two pieces to it. I think most enterprises are really, really worried about LLM proliferation. There are lots of LLMs that are available. And as you can, we all use LLMs in our personal lives. So, the truth is within enterprises, there are many people that are leveraging LLMs already. And what we come across when we speak to our clients is, we need to have a streamlined mechanism through which I can govern, standardize, and create enterprise workflows around leveraging AI agents, specifically in the software engineering space, right? So clients really love that because it's the type of discipline that they want, which is sort of where we really come in, right? To the point of outcomes. You cannot generate a software engineering outcome if the way that you're thinking about AI is to give a tool to every developer and then say, you know, go
Right.
crazy with it, right? It has to be done within the context of a software engineering process. It has to be done within the context of how you do quality engineering, your test management frameworks, how you choose to do business discovery sessions. How do you connect one to the other, and so on and so forth. So defining the software engineering process end to end in a manner where it is supportive of an agentic framework, where you can actually bring agents forward with humans in the loop is incredibly important, and making that sit within your current definition of compliance, current definition of security, a current definition of industry mandates, and of course, within your current budget. All of that is incredibly important for us to be able to make this real in an enterprise. So that is why we believe that, enterprises really require this type of agentic streamlining, if you will.
Right. I mean, it's completely different when you're doing a startup, you're starting with a fresh code base. You can use and a copilot agent for coding, and you can use the average coding for that is in the world, and it's going to work because you can follow the well-known patterns of the frameworks. But on enterprise, you have customized solutions throughout your organization, right? So you need to teach the agents how to work with those specific business use cases.
100%. In fact, one of the areas that we spend time on the most is contextualization. Contextualization is massively important in the context of enterprises, just given the many, 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 many years of business definitions and ways in which things work and so on and so forth. And it is incredibly important that we get those domain models right.
Right.
And that becomes key to making something work at an enterprise level.
How much of how good are the LLMs now to be able to build abstractions of, when we build models, we build objects, we build classes, depending on the framework, you call it different names, but those are basically abstractions that allow us coders to you have a problem in the word, you build a way to interpret that into something that we can abstract to it, right? How good are the LLMs at doing that now?
They're getting massively powerful, Federico. That's the reality. right? Every day they're getting better. There's absolutely no doubt about it. But the real question here is every enterprise works differently. So one cannot make the assumption that the way it works in one enterprise, it would just naturally work in the next enterprise, right? And so that is where I think there's still a lot of work to be done, if you ask me.
Right. Right. So we also, I'm wondering about the difference between consuming AI and producing AI within organizations, and what is how do you differentiate these two?
Yeah, listen, I think so. Producing AI is everybody that produces a model or an application with a model in it, right? Uh, And so um, there are lots of people building agents. Many people are being taught how to build agents, but the real value is in how it's consumed. So today, the way I see it is 95% of almost all of the training that exists is about helping people build agents, helping people, create workflows, helping people think about, how to use the tool this way and how to use the tool that way and so on and so forth. But the truth of the matter is that in the real world, 10% will produce it and 90% will consume it, right? And I'm talking about consumers in terms of product designers, quality engineers, or the process itself, right? It may not just be the people, but even the process. If you decide that you want to have a human in the loop model, you may also have to define a software engineering process where the agents get consumed. We spend a lot more time on defining consumption patterns, especially across industries, across domains, understanding what types of process models can drive those consumption patterns, and how can those process models be agentified through a platform-based approach, right? So that, I'm not in the business of building an agent. I'm in the business of delivering on an outcome for a client or helping a client deliver on an outcome by leveraging an agentified method. And so there, what we end up doing is we end up spending a ton of time with the people that are expected to consume AI agents or processes that are expected to consume AI agents and really making that ready for the consumption.
So you work more on helping people understand the technology than um, than building custom technology, custom agents for the enterprises.
No, I just reframe that. I don't think this is just a training question. I think this is a helping organizations be able to get the most out of out of the value of agentic AI. And what we do there is we help organizations define a new software engineering process, because the old software engineering process that they have of how they do QE and how they do development and how they do design and how they do product ideation and so on and so forth is not built to be able to consume agents at an enterprise level. Individual people may do it differently. There's not one standardized way of doing it. And so we help people sort of define that process model. And then we physicalize that process model on a platform. Our platform actually helps you physicalize that process model. It already has a golden set of agents that are made available, and it is linked within custom built workflows, pre-built workflows that can be deployed, and so on and so forth. And then the humans are in the loop, right? The humans are able to
Right.
make sure that this thing happens, right? That to me is sort of the enterprise way of thinking about this. So there's still a lot of agents that need to be built. There are people that will build the agents, right? You will have people building agents. You will have pre-built agents that we make available. We'll have teams from our sides that will also build the agents, but we just don't stop there. We also define the process model. We define a standardized process model. We then have our platform that physicalizes that process model, makes all of these agents that people are building available through process packs and so on and so forth. So it makes it, we really focus on the consumption side. You understand what I'm saying? So we really focus on the consumption side. A big part of this, like you just said, is also the change management. So it's not just about the process. It's not just about that. It's also about the training. It's about the cross skilling. We do that as well. We help clients sort of rethink their job families, rethink their career hierarchies. How should people get promoted in this new world, right?
Well, that's a
What
really
types
interesting
of job
question.
roles should people have? Those are all very important questions that organizations need to think about. Startups don't worry about that today. Organizations do, right? They have to worry about career hierarchies. They have to worry about promotion processes. They have to worry about all these things. How does all of this look in an agentified world, right?
Right.
So
because currently people, organizations, and people in these organizations don't know what they don't know, and they don't know how to implement AI because there is no pattern to follow yet. It's something new, right?
yeah, listen. Very recently, a very senior leader basically made an announcement that if you don't learn AI, you won't be with the organization anymore, or something like that. I don't want to quote names here. I think that's a bold statement to make for a CEO. But what is underlying that, I think, is also what does the leadership actually do to enable the individual to be able to see a career for themselves in this journey, right? What are those career paths? What are those role families, job families? We got to define all of that so that we're able to take the people that we want on the right?
Right.
It's not just about learning and using AI. The thing is, there is a business model and a process model question here. We got to tackle all of that. And that is why I think that people, I think I was talking to somebody the other day, they were saying, oh, it's a people problem. I just don't think it's a people problem. I think it's a leadership problem. I think we need to have leaders that are very, very comfortable with building organizations and delivering on the success metrics of an organization, knowing that a big part of their work will be done by digital labor. And they also have to build organizations where human labor and digital labor, agentic labor, are able to coexist together. Those
Right.
are the leadership questions and challenges that we have to solve. And we spend a lot of time thinking about that.
Right. Right. And I agree. I mean, I think it's more than a people problem. It's about how can we build this new a new culture and work dynamic.
And that's leadership,
Yes.
right?
So one thing I've been trying to figure out, because I can see a difference for myself, but it's getting harder and harder to see the difference from other people, is when when is a person augmented by AI, or like I'm thinking mostly when they use AI on a personal level, right? And when they're using AI as crutches, right? So they project themselves as skillful, but in reality is they're over relying on agents, but they don't have the core skills. They actually don't have the core skills. It gets harder to detect when somebody actually has the core skills or not because of that, right? Yeah, sure. So I can tell you how I see the difference, right? So I can, for instance, if I'm writing an email, I can put the ideas of the email. Then I can ask the agent, help me write this email better, help me fix the typos, right? And that's a way I can augment AI to build a better email, right? The outcome is better. Or I can do it in a shorter time, right? Or help me, shorter this idea so I don't use too many words, right? Or whatever that might be. So the outcome is better, but it's me guiding, right?
Mhm.
It's my ideas, just I get an assistant. But it's different when I ask AI an open question, and I use those concepts to move forward. Then it's the AI that is actually driving with the strategy, with the ideas on how to move forward, right? So from from a third party, from outside of me, you could see two responses, and it would be hard to detect if it's one or the other, right? I'm wondering how can we start looking for those differences, and if you experience that.
The question really is, why should we look for those differences? So the question that we have to ask ourselves is, should we even look for those differences? Because ultimately, if we agree that artificial intelligence is an extension of ourselves and is a reality that's going to exist in our life, then why should we even look for it? I think there is a very important trust equation here that one needs to sort of figure out, right? So to me, I sort of think about it a little differently. The thinking that we have in the organization is we say, listen, there's an outcome that you ultimately have to achieve, right? If you're able to, if you're through a mechanism that requires you to use artificial intelligence and agents, and as long as that is validated and compliant, why does one need to worry? You get where I'm going with
Right.
this?
Because at the
So
end of the day, you are achieving the outcome.
achieving the outcome in a securitized and compliant manner, and you're able to do that. Now, again, there is a change management around this. Now, the question here to me, Federico, is the question that you're asking is a question of change management. It's a question of how can I ensure that, I'm not just making you use AI, but you yourself want to use AI, right? Or the people that are consuming it want to see you use AI. That's a change management question. And for change management, a lot of this is about, for example, you do contextualization, you provide contextualization lineage. You provide a lot of lineage, right? You have to have mechanisms through which you win somebody's trust over during the change management process. Like, how would you do that? Let's say that you're trying to go and tell somebody about something you learned somewhere. What do you say? You say that, and then you say, what are the sources from which you got it? Like when people make a presentation and they provide a certain output, they clarify the sources from which you got it. So to a large extent, lineage and contextualization, when you do contextualization and models, is about you being able to provide to your beautiful podcast name, pre-vetted sources, right? And so there are ways and means by which you can actually do that to deal with the change management process. But ultimately, where, the highest value of the existence of this conversation will be one where people are not so worried about trying to make the differentiation, but accept the fact that at the end of the day, this is one unit, human labor plus digital labor, and measure it on the outcome that's being delivered. Are you able to deliver the outcome or not? Right? And so that is the journey that we help organizations, enterprises, and people get on.
Right. Right.
And it's difficult,
Yeah.
right? Because, you talked about this notion of people using it for themselves versus people using it in an organization. When you're using it for yourself, you're ultimately accountable only to one person, which is you. But when you're using it in an organization, you're trying to make it happen through a structure or through some sort of a process or a discipline. And there it can get more complicated. So we have to go the extra mile to drive change management, trust mechanisms, do contextualization lineage, do a whole bunch of things like that, that actually gets people more over the wall.
Right. Right. And by assuring the outcome, then it doesn't matter which tool we use, whether we use an agent or whether we use a manual labor. At the end of the day, the assurance of the outcome reduce the risk the process for the business, right?
Exactly. And so the outcome itself is, listen, and it depends on how you choose to define what outcome is, right? Your outcome could be speed, your outcome could be accuracy, your outcome could be any of these things. Your outcome could be revenue, it could be EBITDA, it could be customer experiences, it could be anything that people are building software and technology today for. But ultimately, my only sort of conversation with clients is measure everything on the outcome, right? Yes, there is a change management path that one needs to take to be able to get to that point. That is a very important journey that we have to take personally and from a corporate perspective. But think outcome back.
Right. Right. And how do you manage the agents are they can provide different answers, right? So they could hallucinate and they can come up with they can make decisions, right? Whether they could be, higher quality or lower quality decision process. But at the end of the day, it's a non-deterministic process, right? Whereas on the business, we want a more deterministic process, right? How do you manage that to reduce the risk for enterprise?
Oh, it's a good question. I think it all boils down to how you choose to design your agentic framework. Like, for example, in our world, when we design, and I can't talk for all products here, but at least on our platform, right up front, when you design the agentic process, you get to define the degree to which you want it to be deterministic versus probabilistic, right? You can set your temperature controls. You can do all of that upfront, right? So it is a very, very important part of how you choose to design it, which I think is incredibly important to be able to define deterministic versus probabilistic choices that you make based on the work you do. For example, if we're talking about things that need to be deterministic. Yes, from a coding perspective, absolutely. But if you're doing product discovery, you're trying to do idea brainstorming with product managers, you don't want to be too deterministic. You actually want a little bit of probabilistic there, right? And so I think the choices we make are very important. having a agentic design framework through which you can actually manage and control these choices are very important. But ultimately, it's going to come down to contextualization and learning. I just don't feel like enough organizations that decide to go forward with agentic AI and LLMs spend enough of a time on contextualization. We need to spend a lot of time on contextualization. And, people have to define their own domain context and domain models through which they're able to drive this, right? With the client that we're working with, we're spending a ton of time getting the contextualization right. We've got 25 to 30 work streams through which we are implementing contextualization, even before we open up the platform for everybody to use, right? To your point, for some reason, and it's just, we're all party to it. Humans tend to hold technology to a higher standard than they hold themselves, which is true. And so, it's okay if the human makes mistakes. We give them like a couple of months, but the first time that the model has it hallucinates, it's out. And so, unfortunately, that's the reality that we learn deal with. But the only way to deal with that is to spend a tremendous amount of time on contextualization, cross contextualization, and so on.
Right, right. It could be statistically more accurate than humans, but one mistake and it's aha.
I always joke about this, right? I mean, there are, and I mean this only, I don't mean this in the wrong way. Somebody drives a car and rams into somewhere, rams into 5 people. That's on page 5 or 6. A self-driving car happens to touch some person walking with a little bag. That's front page news.
Right, right.
So so we do tend to hold technology to a higher standard than we hold ourselves.
Yeah, the self-driving cars are. I've seen they start driving more aggressively because now they're more. I feel like I could be wrong on this, but I feel that they now have been able to figure out how to keep being safe, and they're safer than human drivers, right? I love driving, so I want to keep driving myself, but I also love the idea of pushing a button and on the boring sections, just drive me home, right?
100%.
And that experience would be like getting into an airplane, right? It's safer to fly than drive, right? And I
Agreed.
think
Statistically,
that's
that is
what's going
correct.
on. Yeah,
That is correct. It's safer to fly than to cross the road.
right, right. Yeah, which is it's amazing, and there's a lot of effort to make that happen. It's not by magic, right? It's a systemic process improvement that happen over and over time, right?
Yeah, and I think that will happen with artificial intelligence as well. If you look at the cloud industry, it's fascinating, right? I mean, the first few years of cloud, everybody was worried about security issues with cloud. Then it came to a point where people felt very comfortable going to the cloud because it would be more secure there, right? Because of the way that the hyperscalers implemented security controls and so on and so forth, people just felt more comfortable being there than having it in their own data centers. The same thing could happen with artificial intelligence, where if you're thinking about biases, for example, I mean, the investment in AI, the investment in tech is so deep that one would actually realize that in an AI world, things may be more secure, things may things may be more bias free and higher quality than sort of a world which is non-AI. And what was the thing that was holding people back could actually become the thing that accelerates adoption in the first place, right? And I think those days are not very far from us.
Yes, this thing is evolution. The evolution of these AI tools is getting faster and faster every day, and I'm greatly surprised by that.
Great.
So when new customers ask you to do a transformation, what is usually the advice or the steps that you advise them to do?
Well, the first question we try and understand. We really try and understand a lot of things up front, right? First is why? Why are you even doing it? And the answer has to be something that's way better than, or way different, not better, way different than I've been asked to do it, or those people are doing it, things like that. It has to be something that one is able to tie to a strategic outcome that matters to the business, right? One has to be able to tie it to that. Otherwise, the transformation is just not worth getting on, right? The reason
Right.
is because you're not just talking about implementing a new technology. You're talking about capturing minds and hearts. You have to change minds and hearts here. And so for that, the journey really, really needs to be worth it. It's not going to be easy. It needs to be worth it, right? And so how do you know that it's worth it? You know it's worth it only when you know that if you do that, you're going to be able to deliver on that outcome. And so the why question of the transformation is where we always ask people to start. Why not? Is there another way to do this? And what is really the potential out of the possible that you could actually deliver using this? Like, for example, we're talking to a client for whom we're doing a massive transformation. And for that person, this chief customer officer is able to deliver revenue 5 quarters ahead of plan. Five
Wow.
quarters ahead of plan. That is something worth going after. And when you set that true north, that ultimately, as a company, you're able to start your revenue plan 5 quarters earlier, and what that would then mean for the growth of the company, and what that would then mean for the health of everybody in the company, and so on and so forth, is sort of the why behind getting on the transformation. And so situating yourself in that is incredibly important. Incredibly important. Then the second thing becomes the conversation around the model, the business and the process model, right? Specifically the process model. The business model to a large extent is tied to the why, the outcome. The process model is almost always what gets in the way. That's where you hear the conversations of, oh, but we used to do it this way, and we've always done it that way. And the whole thing where change is at its highest is in the process model.
Right.
Instead of brushing your teeth this way, I have to ask you to brush your teeth this way. Right? Instead of wearing your whatever this way, everything changes, right? And so understanding that process model and making sure that people understand what is that new process model that people need to move to is sort of the second thing that we spend a ton of time on. So making sure that the why is clear and people are able to see examples of the why in the pilots and so on and so forth. And then being able to get to a conversation around the process model is sort of the first many things that we do. And as part of the process model, when you start to get a sense of culture and so on and so forth, those things become very important. What LLM choices you make is incredibly important, but it's not the first thing. It should not be the first thing, right? Because I'll also tell you this, ultimately it's in the interest of the LLM companies as well, because at the end of the day, even if you think about it, LLMs make their money in consumption. When they're consumed, they make more money. So consumption doesn't happen if you've not figured these two things out.
Right. So it's change management with consulting, with cultural transformation to implement this tool that a lot of people has a lot of misconceptions about.
And platform. And it's change management, it's consulting, it's platform-driven transformation. I think that's the most important thing. Because it's not just about doing PowerPoint presentations anymore. People want to be able to instantiate and physicalize a lot of what we're talking about. So that's where our platform becomes very important.
Right. And you mentioned something about that the promotions and the hierarchy is also refactored with this new approach, right? How do you see, what is your vision for how that should be approached? Or what would be the outcome, the ideal outcome?
Look, the real outcome for people to me is nothing new. It's just that this to me it's an incredible way to accelerate your career, accelerate your financial health, especially because organizations and enterprises are getting very, very centered around trying to figure out ways by which they can make this real. And so what that would mean is it is a skill transformation question. It's a mindset transformation question for people. And also from a talent standpoint, organizations need to start to think about new role definitions. Like, for example, I think, I don't want to give away too much of my secret sauce, but let's just say, I'll give you an example, right? So we believe that one of the rarest jobs in about a year from now would be agentic delivery management. What do I mean by that? I'm talking about project managers, delivery managers that are taking responsibility for delivering on a particular project that have the mindset the confidence, the skill sets, and the experience to deliver projects on using an agentified method with humans and people. Humans and agents, right? And there aren't going to be too many of them, but that to me is going to be a very rarefied skill. You're not going to find a lot of people that would have actually been able to pull that off in such a short time. But those that have, it's almost like the new data scientist, right? Remember, there was a time when data scientist was the hottest thing out there. I think agentic delivery managers would be one of the hottest things out there, right? And so delivery managers have to start to think about themselves as agentic delivery managers. And the people today that are being given the responsibility of delivering on a project where you have people and agents, and you're being made to use, people are using Claude, or people are using platform, or whatever they may be using, right? And those that are delivering those projects successfully, that's a rare skill. Because what are the things they've learned? They've learned what does it mean to make humans and agents exist together. They've learned what does it mean to work with a scenario, the point that you said, Federico, where the first time an agent hallucinates and the developer goes, oh my God, I'm just going to go back to my old way. The guy says, no, don't do that. Stay at it.
Right.
Let's go back to contextualization. I will take care of the outcome. Don't worry. It's all of that, right? Understanding how the process workflows will work, understanding where to apply the agents. All of this is going to be between agentic architecture design and agentic delivery management, an incredibly important skill set, a management skill set. To me, that's going to be one of the rarest skills out there, right? Because organizations and enterprises are going to look for people that have delivered agentic projects successfully with human labor and digital labor together.
It's being able to coordinate humans and agents to a specific outcome, to a specific timeline. That's going to be super rare.
Today, a project manager builds a Gantt chart, builds an MPP, builds a project plan, or in the context of Agile, they define their Scrum definitions. But now you have to do that, and you should have been able to pull that off in the new software engineering model with agents in it. And if you're somebody that's been able to deliver projects, and all of these projects are going to have expectations on truly accelerated outcomes, right? So if a human-based approach takes you 10 months and a human plus agent in an enterprise takes you, 3 months, and you've been able to deliver 4 or 5 of that very successfully, you are the hottest thing in the market.
Interesting.
And so agentic delivery management for some time will be incredibly important. Now, technology will get to a point where you could have agents orchestrating agents and so on and so forth. Right? I don't know if you know this, but we all started driving. We all drive our electric cars, right? So the self-driving car capability that came into my car was maybe about 5 or 6 years back. We got it. The technology's been there for years, right? But for it to become truly real in the world in which it was being applied took that time. And it's the same scenario. So agentic delivery management to me is going to be an incredibly important skill set in enterprises for the next many years.
Right. And even when the models evolve, there's going to be a need for it, for them.
Yeah, and people that are producing, like the journey that people will take now with job families and roles is going to be, you go from being a builder to a designer to a system thinker. You're thinking holistically about systems, right? So there is an evolution there that I think will happen. Absolutely happen. I worry a lot for the senior developers now, right? So you got entry level and you got senior, people with deep experience. The people that I genuinely do worry about are the senior developers, the people that have held on to their Python code for too long, right? Who haven't spent enough time understanding domain, who haven't spent enough time understanding the functions in which they belong so that they can actually validate the outputs of the agents more effectively and so on and so forth. And so it is a very important career transition that many of who we call sort of senior developers, tech leads really need to be able to make.
I want to talk about your book, AI Arbitrage is the Next Frontier. Can you tell us a little bit what AI Arbitrage means to you?
It's sort of everything that we've talked about so far, which is that, the old model of providing services on top of technology was one called the labor arbitrage model, where you typically found labor pools in, economically convenient societies, countries, ecosystems, wherever it may be, for you to be able to deliver on what I would call the faster, better, cheaper alternative. And AI arbitrage at some level basically is about creating a new agentified process method through which AI can unlock the next wave of efficiency and the next wave of solutioning so that you're able to deliver faster, better, cheaper, but now on steroids, right? And so to me, this notion of AI arbitrage is when our organizations start to leverage artificial intelligence at the core of their workforce transformation and their workplace transformation. You will be able to unlock new levels of productivity, new levels of efficiency, and essentially new levels of outcome assurance. And that's what we sort of call AI arbitrage, right? Because you're seeing material movement in work. And for the first time, you're able to produce engineering outcomes, software engineering outcomes that translate to material business outcomes. Let's say, for example, that you had a software engineering process or you had a certain set of KRAs that you would deliver on building software. So far, all of the tools and techniques that we had improved that incrementally, like, improve sprint velocity by 10% or 15% or 20%, or improve your code quality by 20%, 30%. Those are all incremental benefits. But those don't necessarily move lines on revenue or lines on EBITDA. But with AI and with the agentified model, we're talking about massive shifts, right? We're talking about things being done at speeds that could change the business trajectory of an organization, especially for enterprises, right? And so that to me is for the first time we've got real tech that can deliver significant software outcomes that can materially change business outcomes. And that's what AI arbitrage is. Labor arbitrage didn't do that. Labor arbitrage helped you deliver 30, 40%. But now you're talking about percentages which go over 100 now, right? I mean, I don't even think it's mathematically possible, but it's up there.
Right, but it's order of magnitudes much higher.
Massive order of magnitude. Massive. Orders of magnitude of acceleration of how fast you can develop something or how soon you can create an idea. I was in a conversation with a client the other day and, we were showing them our platform and he was trying to understand the platform. So I told him, listen, what is it? What are you trying to figure out? And he said, listen, we've been trying to build a data marketplace. We've thought about it. We haven't really moved on it because we haven't been able to get the business together, blah, this, blue, that, and all that. And then I just said, okay, let's just play with my platform. Let's see where you get. And then we were able to get to a lean business canvas, must have, nice have requirements, epics to stories in one conversation without any business person in the room. And the guy's like, my Lord, this is crazy. And so think about the weeks and weeks and weeks of time that was crashed by the gentleman using my platform, right? And so you're talking about significant shifts that are creating material business outcomes. That's the part. That's why I don't want us to lose the importance of focusing on the outcome.
Right. That was my thinking about thinking on core skills. People with experience that can define what the outcomes should be, so they can feed that to the LLMs.
100%. Storytelling, Federico, is a very important skill set now.
Amazing.
If I ask people, what's the one skill set that you need to learn, I tell them go and take screenplay writing workshops. You need to know how to tell a story.
Right. Because now it's about having a conversation with the LLM to guide the outcome that you want.
Guide the outcome that you want, and then be able to tell that story to somebody where that is now your role.
Right. And get buy-in to move forward.
Exactly.
That's amazing. Truly appreciate you being here today. Any final remarks before we wrap it up?
No, I love that you're doing this, Federico. I think this is incredible. I think I get very, very excited about a lot of the tech that we develop. We're developing amazing tech ourselves. The only thing that I would tell you listeners is I think this is not a short putt. This is a long putt, right? I'm using golf analogy here. This is a long putt where the ball is going to travel at 5 times the speed or 10 times the speed that you thought. But still remember, it's a long putt. So I think patience is a virtue that we could all gain a lot from as we truly try and move the bar within enterprises.
KK, thank you for joining us today.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Federico.